If you're a history buff or just curious about how money rules the world, then you need to subscribe to The Curious Potato. Picture this, 1944. World War II is winding down. The global economy? Well, economy might be too generous a word. It's a mess. Leaders gather in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire. Their mission? Prevent another economic disaster like the Great Depression. Their solution? The Bretton Woods system, with the US dollar at its heart. See, America emerged from the war mostly unscathed. Its economy was strong. It had loads of gold, so the dollar became the world's reserve currency. Other countries pegged their currencies to it, and the dollar itself backed by gold. 1 ounce equaled $35. This system brought stability. Countries could trade with confidence. The dollar was as good as gold, literally. But like all good things, this gold-backed system wouldn't last forever. As the world recovered, the US started printing more dollars. More dollars chasing the same amount of gold? Not sustainable. By the 1970s, the system was creaking. Something had to give. 1971. President Nixon drops a bombshell. The US is abandoning the gold standard. No more can swap dollars for gold. Chaos ensues. Economists predict doom. The dollar, they say, will plummet. But guess what? It didn't. Here's the twist. The world still needed dollars. The US economy, despite its flaws, was still a powerhouse. It was the largest importer and exporter. And critically, oil, the lifeblood of modern economies, was traded in dollars. This, my friends, is the birth of the petrodollar. More on that later. The dollar, unshackled from gold, became even more powerful. It was the currency of global trade. Countries held dollars as reserves. They borrowed and lent in dollars. The greenback wasn't just a currency, it was the language of global finance. Now, you might be wondering, why the dollar? Why not the yen or the pound? Good question. It boils down to trust. The US has a few things going for it. First, its economy. Yes, it has its ups and downs, but it's still the largest in the world. It's diverse, innovative, and, well, mostly well-managed. Second, stability. The US has a long history of political stability. No coups, no revolutions, just peaceful transitions of power. That matters to investors. Third, military might. Like it or not, the US has the most powerful military in the world. That provides a sense of security. And fourth, the legal system. It's predictable, transparent, and relatively speaking, corruption-free. All of this builds trust. And trust is the bedrock of the dollar's dominance. Let's talk oil, shall we? It fuels our cars, heats our homes, and powers our industries. It's the lifeblood of the global economy. And guess what? It's mostly traded in US dollars. This is the petrodollar system in action. Here's how it works. In the 1970s, the US struck a deal with Saudi Arabia, the world's largest oil producer. Saudi Arabia agreed to price its oil in dollars and invest its surplus earnings in US Treasury bonds. In return, the US provided military protection. This deal had a ripple effect. Other oil-producing countries followed suit. Suddenly, everyone needed dollars to buy oil. This created a huge demand for dollars, further cementing its status as the world's reserve currency. Talk about a win-win. Well, at least for the US and Saudi Arabia. The petrodollar system might seem like a niche thing, but its effects are far-reaching. Because oil is traded in dollars, most other commodities are priced in dollars too. Think copper, wheat, gold, you name it. This means countries need dollars to buy and sell on the global market. But it's not just trade. Most international loans are also issued in dollars. So, if a country wants to borrow money, it needs dollars to repay the loan. This creates a constant demand for dollars, keeping the US currency strong. This dominance has its perks for the US. It can borrow money at lower interest rates. It can print more money without triggering hyperinflation. But for other countries, it can feel like a raw deal. They're at the mercy of US monetary policy. And that's where BRICS enters the picture. BRICS. It sounds like a breakfast cereal, but it's actually an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. These emerging economies are fed up with the dollar's dominance. They see it as a tool of US hegemony, and they're not afraid to say it. Their frustration is understandable. The US can impose sanctions that cut countries off from the dollar-based financial system. It can freeze assets held in US banks. It can even block transactions through SWIFT, the global messaging system that facilitates cross-border payments. This power, as you can imagine, doesn't sit well with BRICS. They see it as economic warfare. They argue that the current system is unfair and unsustainable. And they're determined to create an alternative. The question is, can they? BRICS, multi-pronged currency crusade. BRICS isn't just complaining, it's taking action. Their strategy is multifaceted and ambitious. First, they're promoting trade in local currencies. Why use dollars when you can use yuan, rubles, or rupees? Second, they're hoarding gold. Remember how the dollar used to be backed by gold? BRICS seems to think it's a good idea. They've been buying gold at a record pace, diversifying their reserves and hedging against a potential dollar crash. Third, they're building their own payment systems. Russia has SPFS, China has CIPS. These systems allow countries to bypass SWIFT and conduct transactions in their own currencies. And finally, they're talking about a BRICS currency. Imagine a single currency backed by the combined economic might of BRICS. It's a bold idea, but is it feasible? Let's look at some data. The US dollar still accounts for about 60% of global foreign exchange reserves. That's down from 70% a decade ago, but still significant. BRICS, on the other hand, have been steadily increasing their gold reserves. China now holds the largest gold reserves in the world, surpassing the US. Russia and India are not far behind. This gold rush shows their determination to move away from the dollar, but it's just one piece of the puzzle. Replacing the dollar is like trying to move Mount Everest with a teaspoon. It's going to take more than just buying gold and creating new payment systems. BRICS faces some serious challenges. First, trust. The dollar benefits from decades of trust built on a strong economy, stable politics, and a reliable legal system. BRICS nations have a lot of catching up to do in this department. Second, unity. BRICS is a diverse group with different economic interests and political ideologies. Getting them all on the same page is a Herculean task. Third, infrastructure. The dollar-based financial system is deeply entrenched. Dislodging it requires building a robust alternative. And fourth, habit. The world is used to doing business in dollars. Changing that habit will take time, effort, and a lot of persuasion. So, is the dollar going to reign supreme forever? Not necessarily. The world is changing. The global balance of power is shifting. BRICS is a force to be reckoned with. Their efforts to challenge the dollar, while still in their infancy, could have a significant impact in the long run. It's unlikely that any single currency will replace the dollar anytime soon. But we might be moving towards a multipolar currency system, where several currencies share the stage. The euro, the yuan, and maybe even a BRICS currency could play a more prominent role. The future of money is uncertain, but one thing is clear. BRICS is shaking things up. The dollar might still rule, but its throne is starting to look a little wobbly. And that, my friends, is something worth watching.